Okay, so I believe we are officially live streaming and we are at 12 on the dot. So let's go ahead and share my screen again and we can get started. One second here. And I believe the audience is able to filter in as needed without a waiting room. So I don't think we'll have any issues there. But maybe Anna, if you can keep track on the participants and any questions that pop in the chat as well as we go through the conversation, that would be ideal. And let me do officially present here. Okay, great. Thank you everyone who's able to join us today. My name is Laura Montoya. I am one of the founders of the Excel AI Institute and the president of the Latinx and AI organization and programs. I am accompanied by Leonel Rodriguez, a senior manager of international technical recruiting at Etsy. Thank you very much for being here. Leonel, do you want to do a really quick intro to yourself and your role at Etsy?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, my name is Leo. I've been at Etsy now for 8 years. I'm a senior technical recruiting manager. My main focus has been the recruiting strategies for some of our larger growth areas, such as Mexico, and most recently our mobile hiring initiatives.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And we do also have some other members of our team that'll be on the call here today. So if at any point you have questions, please feel free to jump in. And generally throughout the entire presentation, we want to make this very conversational and interactive. So if you have questions, you need help with something specific, we're happy to address that. Just put a note in the chat or raise your hand and then we can address it at that time. So today we're going to talk about making artificial intelligence your co-pilot for resumes, interviews, and portfolios, so that your human judgment can impact and shine with the use of AI. You'll leave with some prompt frameworks, a resume pattern that passes ATS. ATS screening is very important these days. Interview drills, and a one-page weekly workflow. I'll also run through a mini demo and share some take-home kits at the end so that you can use that in your day-to-day. Does that sound good to everyone? Yes, yes? Okay, great. So obviously, I think you've heard this before. Technical skills get you in the door, but your human skills are actually what gets you hired. So companies need people who can frame problems. They need people who can communicate with different stakeholders, who can make ethical trade-offs. And AI isn't just going to take your job, right? AI is going to help someone who knows how to use AI that might actually take your job, right? And this is kind of the key that we want to inform upon you, and that will help you essentially in your goal in the future. So think of AI as a force multiplier. It can draft things at the speed of light, but you have to own the truth to your story and your decisions. So what's broken in today's job market? Well, we're in an ATS first world. And so your precision in this case, or your edge, is ensure that you are using targeted keywords and measurable outcomes and clean formatting to ensure that your resume is going to pass through all of these ATS systems. Also, hiring managers really care about the change that you create, the impact of your role and your projects. So projects and metrics can cut through a lot of the issues around pedigree and buzzwords that tend to go on resumes. And we want you to understand that you also have to treat networking like a weekly habit. You really want to convert those warm intros that you're doing on a day-to-day basis. And you have to understand that applying through an online portal is like playing the lottery, right? Your chances of getting hired through those sources are very, very low. So you want to do something, whatever you can now, to build up your experience, get those warm intros. And then when it comes to projects, even shipping small things make a big difference, and using them as a kind of a corner point to say hello to people and talk about what's going on in your life. So here's the plan we're going to talk about today. This is our roadmap. You want to prepare to apply before you start applying. You want to build an impact-first resume using AI agents with very tight prompts. You want to create a portfolio that proves your value and your worth. Then you want to also practice interviewing with AI chatbots, and then turn your cold outreach into warm connections and ensure you are covering ethics, and finish with negotiation. So this is going to be key. You can also use AI for practicing negotiations. This is something a lot of people have not yet gotten into, but very, very valuable. And then again, ask questions at any time, and I'll pause for a mini demo before we do our Q&A. So hiring teams are looking for a diverse skill tree. They want things like strong technical skills paired with standout human skills, communication, prioritization, ownership, collaboration, and ethical judgment. You really have to ensure that you're turning your technical outputs into stakeholder outcomes, and today's tools can help you practice that translation. So what is an AI co-pilot really? AI can help you draft different parts of your resume. It can help you iterate. It can help you verify what you're saying is correct. It can help you tailor to a specific job position. You should never, ever what they call paste and pray. So always read what it is that is in the output before you use it. And you should always personalize and proofread everything. If a model or chatbot invents details, you have to correct it. If it sounds generic, you have to push back and ask it for a better option. Having a co-pilot does not mean that you are on autopilot, right? This is a really key point here that you have to understand. So I'm going to ask the audience a quick question. What is your number one bottleneck currently in applying for jobs? Is it your resume? Is it the interview process? Or is it your portfolio? Please put in the chat right now, just really quick, what has been your number one bottleneck to make sure we spend a little extra time on that. I'm going to give people a moment or two, and don't be shy. Okay, so I see portfolio, GitHub repo setup, portfolio, great. Interviewing, great. Yep, AI interviews. Good, good. So yeah, so maybe even getting through to the interview essentially is not the hard part. Maybe once you're in the interview and ensuring you have the right portfolios and projects set up is going to be key for you to get hired. So thank you for those that have put their answers in the chat. But let's go ahead and touch on the resume because I think not everyone has this down yet. The important and most valuable pieces about the resume is that you are showing or demonstrating your work rather than just telling. So resumes should show impact and not list every single task that you are responsible for in a job. You should always include your best work, why it mattered to the users and to the business. You have to quantify these results with specific metrics, things like how much time you saved the company, how much revenue you generated, what increase in quality you were able to create, what was the adoption rate of the work that you did, or the scale potentially that was proportional to your efforts. And you have to literally bold that impact in the phrases on your resume so that when someone is just skimming through, this is still very visible to them and those metrics will stand out. When it comes to projects, so it sounded like having a good portfolio is really something that's key that people need to work on. This is what we would recommend, having projects that really teach and delight. So pick projects that you really enjoy and something you're actually going to finish, right? A project doesn't have to be what they call AI hard, right? It doesn't have to be you're building a model from scratch, especially if you've never done it before. It just has to be something that is valuable to you and that has a good story behind it. So you can, for example, automate a family process, right, in your household or something for your friends. You can analyze a stock that you follow online for investments. You can ship a small data app for a club or a group that you're working with. Or you can reproduce a paper that you really enjoy on a smaller data set, right, just to show like you have the ability to do that. It should be fun, and having fun with these projects will drive consistency, and consistency will ship over time. So that way, when you do come to the interview, you can say, hey, I worked on this cool project. This is why it mattered to me, and this is why it could matter to stakeholders. And then when you get to that interview, making sure you're prepared. So practicing regular interview cadence. This means having weekly short focused sessions where you're practicing. This could be with an AI chatbot, so very, very important. And making sure that you have it rotate different types of interviews. So behavioral, technical, and case study type interviews. And you want to keep a question bank so that you can remember the types of questions that they ask you, as well as the answers that you give and the feedback from those answers that you receive from the chatbot, from interviewers, or from friends. You want to treat this like a gym, right? You're taking very small reps over time, and then you're also going to get feedback that help you to improve little by little. So for your resume, just as getting back to this really quickly, the different choices for ATS, which is very, very important, you want to keep the layouts parser friendly. So that means one column, standard fonts, no text and images or tables, clear section headers. You want to make it a PDF unless a portal asks you specifically for a Word doc, which you can have it export to a .doc at any time or keep a version handy. When you're naming your file, make sure it's clearly named, something like last name, first name, the role you're applying for, and the company you're applying for, both for their readability as well as your reference, right? So that later on, let's say they do want to bring you in for an interview, you'll know the exact version of your resume that you sent in for that job. The sections that you want to include are things like summary, skills, experience, the projects that you have, education, the links you want to include, and of course, if you are a researcher that publishes, you want to include a list of your publications. This should make it easy to be parsed by ATS as well as for humans to be able to read this very clearly. Now, quick little vote here. I want you to tell me which resume is better. I'm going to show you two different options, and I want you to put the answer in the chat. So we have option one on the left-hand side and option two on the right-hand side. So based on what you've learned so far today, which resume do you think is better? So we got to vote for option two. Another vote for option two. Two. Okay, great. So I'm seeing a lot of votes for option two, so that's good. So it sounds like you guys have been listening, which is awesome. So resume number one looks cool, right? And I think back in the old days, like that would be very valuable for someone to stand out, right? When resumes were only being viewed by people, generally you wanted something that was going to catch their attention. So playing with formatting, including images for things like the software you work with or the different tools that you know how to use, that could be valuable to really grab people's attention. But nowadays, where these AI systems are essentially weeding through all of your resumes, adding all of these things will actually, unfortunately, ensure that your resume is being filtered out and will cause problems, ensuring that you're not going to get to the hiring manager or the recruiter who's going to actually look at that resume. So option two is a better option. But there's still a lot of improvements that could be made to option two, right? Here we have some vague terminology. I don't see, for example, I know it's kind of small on the screen, but I don't see, for example, let's try to zoom in a little bit, a lot of metrics around the impact that this person had in their role. So you don't see a lot of figures here. There's nothing bolded, like nothing's really drawing your attention to what this person was able to achieve in their time in these different positions. So they're going to stand out a little bit less than someone else who has these types of impact metrics in their resume. So just something to consider there. So ensuring that you have a bulletproof resume recipe. Let me make sure I'm zoomed back out. Am I zoomed out all the way? Yes, okay. So what you want to do is ensure you're including an action verb plus what you did, plus who it was for, and then so what? What is that impact that you're missing? So add in numbers, things like percentages, numbers, money saved, time saved, and the scope of the work or the impact. So here's a quick example. Before you could have said, I worked on a data pipeline for reports, right? Which is fine. That tells people what role you took on that job or what your responsibility was, but it doesn't say the impact that you had. So a better example is the after, which is I built a daily data pipeline, delivering CFO dashboards, cutting report latency by 78%, and saving 4 hours per week across FP&A, right? So you know exactly what the person did, who was impacted by it, what the outcome was, the fact that they saved money, they saved time. Like this really makes a big, big difference. So, in short, be very specific and make sure that it is stakeholder aware. Okay, so here we're going to have a mini demo. So, here's where you start getting some of your prompt bank in. Here we want to rewrite a bullet with AI. So I don't know if we have a volunteer in the room. If someone wants to give me one of their bullet points from their resume that they would like to work on, and I'm going to include it here in ChatGPT. Does anyone have a bullet point they would like me to have rewritten? Let's open up the chat. Now, come on, don't be shy. We can also make one up if we need to. Oh, let me go back. Okay, let's see. All right, so let's take this. Thank you, Herman, for submitting your bullet point. So we're going to do a quick demo. I've got ChatGPT up here. So I'm going to say you are a hiring manager. Let's say for, let's say an engineering, AI engineering role at, we're just going to use Etsy because we have our wonderful representative, Leonelle, on the line today. And I want you to rewrite this resume bullet to be concise. Okay. And then a less than or equal to 26 words, impact first, and ATS friendly. So less than or equal to 26 words, ATS friendly, and impact first. Okay. And then include quantifiable outcomes and stakeholder value. Stakeholder value. Okay, and then avoid fluff and buzzwords. So that is really important as well here, because I think recruiters really know when you're using too many buzzwords. So here is the bullet, and the more context that you give to the chatbot, the better your outcomes will be. So let's see what this says. And of course, as if you sign into ChatGPT, you build a profile, it will start to get to know you as well and have a good understanding of your background. So it'll keep some of this information as well in its history. So here is the new version of this bullet point. It says you should rewrite. So it says reduce contract creation time by 99%, enabling same-day pricing by consolidating intake into one submission path with automated validation and real-time feedback. Do we think that it could do better than this? What do you guys think? What do you think would make this output even better? Or what do we like about this? So it is concise. It's a little bit more concise. It does highlight the impact. Okay, so we've got a comment here. And do feel free to also unmute yourself if you have opinions. So yeah, it's definitely shorter. I see that. What about you, Leonelle? I know since you're on the hiring side, what do you think could be better said?
Totally. I think maybe even if we're able to kind of complete the narrative and add the downstream effect of what maybe this enabled, the contract creation time, that's a wonderful metric, but maybe what that might have enabled as far as either time back or cost savings or anything of that nature that might be useful to quantify that downstream effect.
Yeah, can you include um, what the downstream effects of this work could be in the output? So this is important because you can start building a conversation essentially and tell it what you really wanted to say. So here, the new version says cut contract creation 99%, enabling same day pricing and faster deal cycles, boosting sales velocity by unifying intake with automated validation and instant feedback. Okay, so it starts to give you some ideas of what else can be done that would be helpful. So let's jump back really quickly here and think about some other important ways that you can interact with something like ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever your preferred AI chatbot is. So the next thing you can do as well is ensure that there's job description alignment with the agent. So if you have a specific job you're applying for, you can extract the exact keywords to map your evidence, to map to your evidence. You can fill in gaps with micro projects and learning notes. And so what you can do is you can actually ask the system to improve your responses and what's contained in your portfolio projects. So for example, you can say something like have the model extract required skills, map each of these to your strongest evidence, then flag the gaps that are currently within your history. Turn those gaps into 1 to 2 week micro projects. So this will convert your anxiety into a plan and will actually give you fresh material for your portfolio and for interviews. The other thing you can do here is you can start looking at different prompts for figuring out patterns essentially for how to talk with these systems. So good prompts start with clarity, of course. So what is your goal? Who is the audience that's going to be reading the output? What are the constraints, things that you want to keep in mind? Stuff like the length of the bullet, for example, the tone you want it to take, so professional, friendly, the format you want it to give the information in. And you can also provide the specific job description snippet and your raw bullet points so that it can give you different options. You can ask it for specific trade-offs and a rationale so that you can choose the best option that'll work for you and that sounds like you. You don't just have to accept the first thing that it gives you. Here's some more options for your prompt bank. So the bank that we'll link you to at the end will also include things like resume summaries, bullet refiners, star story builders, ATS checks, interview panels, and outreach options. Now, you shouldn't memorize these prompts. You should memorize the patterns, right? Get to know the patterns and learn how to define the inputs and outputs that you want, how to set constraints, how to ask for multiple options, and how to demand evidence-based edits. So the examples included here are, for example, to have it write you a better executive summary. So create a 3-line professional summary for the specific role you're looking for. Emphasize the top 3 strengths for this particular industry and 1 quantifiable achievement. Limit the output to 50 to 60 words. Use a crisp human tone, right? So that's a good prompt. The next one is the Star Story Crafter. So if you've never heard of Star Stories, essentially it's like taking an achievement that you have and turning it into a story that includes what you did, who the stakeholder was, and what you can improve upon later. So this is a good prompt. Turn this experience into a star story with measurable outcomes and a 20 to 30-second delivery. So include 1 stakeholder quote and 1, what would I do next time to make this even better? And then, of course, the ATS sanity check. So check my resume for ATS issues, including tables, images, and headers, and list all the fixes and a plain text version, preserving the bullets and bold markers. The other thing, if you're unsure if your resume currently passes ATS, if you don't want to put it through a chatbot for security purposes or whatever, There are other resume ATS analyzers that do exist. This is just one that has a free option. There are many, many online. Most of them will ask you to pay if you try them after, one or two tries, but at least there are some options where you can check out these different ATS systems and see if your resume does stand that test. If the output that it gives you don't like, let's say it's too generic, you could say something like, give me 3 unique alternatives focused on stakeholder value. If you think it's too long, you can ask it to compress the sentence into less than or equal to 20 words, using the metric first so that it stands out. If you think it's hallucinating, you can tell it to only use the numbers that are included in your resume or in your actual experience, and to reject any numbers that you did not provide. And if you think the tone sounds off, like it doesn't sound like you, or it doesn't sound confident enough, you can say rewrite as confident, but not boastful, right? You don't want to seem like you're full of yourself, because at the end of the day, right, you are the editor, you should be in control of the system and only use the prompts that you want. So when it comes to your portfolio, I know this is a sticking point for a lot of people. You can use these systems to generate ideas. So you can ask the AI to propose 5 weekend-sized projects that match to your background and interests. For each, you can ask for a specific user, a pain point that you want to solve a problem for, what the solution could be, and a success metric, right? That that this means that the project was successful. And then you can actually use this output as well to develop a README outline that can accompany your portfolio project. When you start, you can pick the smallest project that will actually still teach you something, and you can actually ship or finish within the first week, right? That way you're making progress. An important thing to note these days is that getting better at engineering through using AI is actually a really good thing. So a lot of people have been a little bit hesitant to use artificial intelligence, but it's actually incredibly valuable in the workforce today. So many companies are letting you use artificial intelligence in their interview process, and on the job for engineering and research tasks. So they want to know that you're comfortable with these tools, and that you're always doing better, right? You're learning, you're listening, and you want to make sure that you are applying these skills as you're learning so that you can use them on the job as well. With your portfolio, just like a product, you want to make sure that the packaging looks good, right? So I know some people mentioned that developing a website or portfolio on GitHub is very important. I agree with you there. But even if you don't have a website, you can still create a one-page write-up or README that demonstrates what the problem is you're trying to solve. You can include a demo through a video or a GIF, and then you can explain how it works, what the results were, and what those next steps would be for you to make it better. If you do publish research, you could keep your Google Scholar profile up to date. You can link to your preprints. These are all very important as well, and include these on your resume, making sure it is skimmable and really highlights your impact. So with this impact write-up, here's a quick template. It should include, as I mentioned, the problem, who and why you're solving this for, the approach, what you built, the results, the numbers and quotes that you used, your role, so your skills, what software packages, frameworks, etc. you used, and then what you're going to do next time. Because this also creates a framework for interviews, right? When you're talking about these projects in an interview, you can use this to tell your story. And as I mentioned before, you can do a lot of interview practice with artificial intelligence. So you can have it act as a recruiter, a hiring manager, or an on-site interviewer as well. So have it interview you through different rounds. So for example, recruiters will usually test for clarity and fit to a role before someone gets moved on to a hiring manager. A hiring manager will usually test for impact and collaboration, seeing if the person would be a good part of the team. An on-site interviewer will usually go deeper, and they'll look for problem-solving skills, trade-offs, also team fit. They really want to make sure that you are going to be able to do the job well. So make sure that you tailor your examples with the AI practice for each of these questions to reach that particular audience. So include that in your prompt. Here are some prompts for mock interview agents. So you can do a behavioral panel prompt, such as act as first a recruiter, second a hiring manager, and three a peer engineer. Ask me 10 mixed questions. After each answer I give, score me a 1 through 5 on clarity, impact, how concise I was, and suggest one improvement I can make. This is for this target role, and here's my resume, right? And then have that conversation with the agent. You could also use it as a case and coding partner. So you can ask it to walk me through a system design for a specific problem, ask me questions Socratically, push for trade-offs, and back of the envelope estimates. So make sure that it's actually testing you and pushing you to think strategically as you answer it. And then don't just stick with AI for your practice, right? Replicate this process with your peers, other people that you know are also looking for new roles or are just open to working with you, right? Swap with them for 30-minute drills weekly, share prompt kits and the job description analysis. And then from there, as I mentioned earlier, start tracking these things. Create that question bank and track your best answers and what you can do to improve your answers over time. As you are actually reaching out to people for new positions, always remember that warm beats cold outreach. So the best way that you can get these warm intros is through getting in touch with alumni from the university that you attended or other companies you've worked for in the past. Meetup sessions are great for local meetups. Conferences, obviously our organization does a lot of work with conferences for this purpose. And then also through internal referrals on sites like LinkedIn are incredibly invaluable. And you can have AI draft a 90-word message that references one relevant impact. It could ask a specific question about the team, and then make sure not to send your resume right away, right? Ensure that you first start a conversation with the person. You want them to not think that you're just reaching out for this purpose, right? That you actually have an interest in them as a person and their life or their role. So that, it's a more friendly conversation. And then after that, follow up again in a week or a couple of days. You can talk to them about a new feature that you shipped in a project you were working on and how it might relate to the company or to, their role at the job, right? Keep it essentially very conversational and ensure that they see that you're interested and you also have the skills that you can use to apply to that particular position. And then, of course, as you're using AI, understand that you should be proud of your use of AI. Obviously, don't misrepresent your skills or your results, but you should disclose that AI is being used when appropriate, right? Like that you edited something with artificial intelligence. You do want to, of course, protect confidentiality and never paste proprietary data into any of these AI chatbots. There are certain ones that have more data privacy practices and will not publicly share the information that you include online, but other ones, unfortunately, are not that protective of data. So be very mindful when you're putting things into these systems. Always, of course, keep your voice when you're using these AI systems for your resume, for your projects, for writing sources, and always cite the sources that are used. So you can ask these chatbot systems to tell you what sources they're getting their information from as well, and they should be able to give you those citations. And then remember that these tools do affect real people. And that, you want to make sure that anything that you share that's coming from these tools always also reflects your values and you're considering the impact it's going to have on the rest of the world. Now, when it comes to negotiation, right, let's say you are getting ready for the interview, you think they're going to give you an offer. You do want to be prepared for this aspect as well, right? It's very, very important to have preparation for a job offer to ensure that you can negotiate. So before you even get an offer, you want to decide your must-haves before negotiating. You want to make sure that you understand what role you're applying for or that you would like to have within the position, within the company, the scope of work you intend to do while you're there. If there is a path for growth for you within the company if that's something that's important to you, different comparable ranges of your job salary and the location where you would like to work if you want to be remote first or if you want to work in a specific city. You do have to research realistic ranges for the level and the location, and then always know what your best alternative is if what you want does not land with the people that are giving you an offer. So negotiation's always easier when you've already made a lot of these decisions in advance, and then you can come clear to the negotiation table. When it comes to negotiating, you should take one of two different paths. The first, path A, could be that you are applying competitive pressure. So you can say, you know, this company over here has offered me this salary, but if we can be competitive at this price, I would be ready to sign with you here and take this job, right? Or you can go with path B and say, I can sign today here with your job if you can offer me this base with this amount of equity and this amount of sign-on bonus, right? So if you are brief, if you're kind, if you're consistent, if you know what you want, that will really make a big difference. And at that point, you should stop talking,
Try the
give them
five.
a chance to respond. Yes,
Yes.
please go ahead.
A good point.
Does someone have a question?
Are you okay?
Okay, so maybe not a question, so that's okay. And you can use AI to help you practice this as well, right? If you have something in mind, but you don't feel confident yet on how to say this when you're going to talk to the hiring manager, you can have AI essentially give you, your script and to also help you through the negotiation process. Now, make sure you're not going back and forth too many times, right? Or you'll end up losing opportunities. You have to limit yourself to one or two rounds of negotiation. And throughout the entire process, keep your tone upbeat and be very responsive. If you do hit a wall, you can always walk away, but do thank them, the hiring managers, and try to keep the door open because you never know when there might be a new opportunity with that company or with a representative that you'd like to come back and talk to them about. And always protect that relationship, right? That's very, very important. You think that, Silicon Valley or tech or all of this is a large place, but actually, you see a lot of the same people over and over again for specific roles and within these companies. So do protect those relationships. And when you're going to apply for jobs, similarly, you can use AI to help you with this. But even if you're utilizing artificial intelligence, really the key value is consistency over time when you are applying. So you can develop something like a regular cadence. So you can have this schedule to apply to 3 to 5 tailored applications per week. You can create one micro project update. You can spend 60 to 90 minutes of interview practice, and you can do 3 warm outreaches or 3 follow-ups per week, right? Making sure that you have those goals that you're following through on every single week will make a huge difference, especially if you're also tracking your funnel, making sure that you have your applications that you're tracking, and you're tracking when you do get an on-site or an offer, just so you can see over time, like where the drop-off is, what's actually happening that, you're not getting further in the interview cycle. And just understand that consistency beats intensity in the long road. So try to avoid burnout. If you apply to 100 jobs today, but then you don't apply to anything else for the rest of the week or for the month, the likelihood that you're actually going to get a job is going to be a lot lower than if you do a little bit, little by little over time. So here's your take-home kit. This is actually available on GitHub, so you can either scan the QR code or go to this link. This includes the prompt bank, which has for resumes, job descriptions, star stories, interview practice, outreach, and negotiation. It has a PDF version of an ATS Clean Resume template that you can edit, or if you want to get it on Overleaf, the link to Overleaf is also there. It has a portfolio checklist, a README template, some negotiation scripts, and an application tracker in a CSV or Excel spreadsheet. So I'll let you look at that here as well. So this is the GitHub. And here's a little README, and you can see all the different links to the different resources that are available here. This is on the Latinx AI GitHub account. So you should be able to access it. And just as an example, here is the resume template in PDF. But you can also access this through Overleaf. If you want to see it, you can actually edit it directly in LaTeX. You just have to make a copy of the project and then you can customize it yourself. So if you're looking for a new resume template, this would be a really good one to use. It does also include publications. So if you are publishing with us or with other journals or conferences, that would be a good place to input that information. And this has already been run through the ATS system to ensure that it is readable and that does not create any flags. So a little bit about our organization for people who are joining us for the first time. We were founded in 2018 in order to build a thriving global community for the Latin American region in the field of artificial intelligence. At this organization, we aim to increase the representation of the community and support it through different programs that I'll talk to you about a couple of them on this call as well. But we have many, of course, that you can find information about on our website. Within all of our programs and projects that we've developed, it's our vision that the AI industry is developed alongside the Latinx AI community, that members of LXAI don't just participate, but that we also actively lead and innovate within the industry as well. And it's well known that representation of the Latin American community in this field currently is insufficient. So this can be attributed to various factors in Latin American countries, as well as issues in the US for the Hispanic population. But no matter the case, we want to develop our programs and projects in a way that really help the community and differentiate those members that are working in the AI space. So a fundamental pillar of our strategy to achieve this is to act as a bridge between the exceptional talent emerging from Latin America and the opportunities for innovation and development in the global industry. So we do this in part through our official workshops. Here, this is one of our main programs. For our official workshops, they are co-located with very prestigious AI and ML conferences, such as the Neural Information Processing Systems Conference, which is actually coming up in a couple of weeks. Also the International Conference on Machine Learning, and the International Conference on Learning Representations, and even more niche conferences like the Computer Vision and Pattern Recognition Conference, or NACL, which is the North American Association for Computational Linguistics. At our workshops, we offer a variety of initiatives to encourage participants and engagement among our members. For instance, we invite keynote speakers who can deliver in-depth talks on specific research topics. We also host mentoring hour representatives from our corporate partners so that senior community members can participate in a panel discussion that are moderated by members of our community, and our members can ask questions and to get feedback on their goals for their careers. We also provide opportunities for oral and poster presentations from the extended community, and we allow people to submit their research in order to participate in this. And we organize networking sessions at different venues, such as restaurants, which allow attendees to engage in more casual conversations and connect with one another. But of course, one of the most significant benefits is that you also get to interact directly with industry representatives at these events. So they're not a purely academic event. This is also a great meeting point for members to get introduced to the corporate world. So we do have researchers from world-class corporate labs and recruiters from leading technology companies that are going to be there that help to support our mission. And so we think that this is a really great opportunity. And in order to ensure more of our members are there, we also do provide travel grants to presenters, chairs, and other attendees to attend these larger conferences, because we think this is really crucial to ensure that we have enough people that have a seat at the table that can talk about their work and get the opportunity to come and join us. And here you can see some of how our workshops are developed and the engagement opportunities. So for each workshop, of course, they vary by event. We'll often have something around the lines of 40 full paper submissions, over 80 attendees. usually 4 or 5 keynote speakers, a mentorship hour, as I mentioned, social and networking activities, cultural activities, and we do provide around 30 or more grants per session. So do submit your research paper once our new calls for papers opens in the next week. And then for our mentorship program, we do also offer this session that is aligned with our workshops that happens twice a year for 2 different cohorts that run about 3 months each. So this is another great opportunity to grow your career, get expert guidance on topics that are important to you, things like this, right? Applying for a new job or working on a portfolio project, right? Or publishing a research paper. These can all be wonderful things that you can get mentorship on. So if you're looking to apply, we do have applications open on our website for our next cohort, which will be taking place early next year. And so, as I mentioned earlier, one of our most important roles is being a bridge for the community. And so this is a bridge between the talent or students or industry professionals, academia, and everyone that's working in either applied research, engineering, and so on that wants to be part of the new wave of artificial intelligence. So we act as a direct talent pipeline. We create impact from research. We do also publish research ourselves, and we encourage others to publish research. And we like to foster this cross-sector collaboration. So that's it. Of course, I'll open the floor for some more questions. We do have a few minutes left. And I will also encourage you to submit your CV if you are looking for new job opportunities. You can do so at this QR code. We'll also share the link with the people who have registered to attend this session. And yeah, I encourage you to join us. We do have a lot of resources available online, a wonderful forum where people can join and connect. And I want to thank you for spending the last hour with us. Just keep in mind that AI scales your output, but your human edge is your judgment and integrity and your impact. And that'll make you be the human that AI can't replace. So thank you. That's it on my side. So I will pause and see if we have any questions. And also, of course, big thank you to Lionel, who was able to join us and is willing to share his insights as well from his experience at Etsy, if anyone has specific questions for him as well.
Yeah, thank you all for having me. And I think one thing that jumped out to me as well is kind of listening through this and back too is one of the things we often search for that might be difficult to kind of demonstrate earlier on in a career is that growth mindset. So the ability to take feedback, being able to applicate that feedback and then be able to see or apply that feedback and see kind of the results of that. And I love the idea of like using a mock interview agent and the radical candor that might come from that and the feedback you might receive from that as kind of creating or showing, demonstrating that you can take critical feedback, especially when you have somebody that maybe you can role play with as well. So I just thought that was interesting. Kind of being able to leverage this prep is also something that might be an actual anecdote that you can use as far as demonstrating growth mindset through your interview process as well. I thought that really resonated with me.
Thank you, Lionel. Great insight. Any questions from the audience? I think let me also check YouTube, see if we have any questions there. So maybe, Lionel, also maybe a question I have for you. When it comes to resumes, what's one major standout thing that you look for? Maybe that's also position agnostic that you think would really help someone, get their impact across on a resume
Yeah, no,
or portfolio. Yeah.
of course. No, and I think you covered a lot of it as well. And I think for me, at Etsy, we usually look at the three I's, and that's influence. Did you influence a decision? Did you generate an insight, or did you innovate a process? And those are really kind of the three things that we often look for from folks as well. So I think sometimes just as simple as bolding out what those might be to make it easier. I think there's such a time crunch when you are reviewing resumes. And a lot of the filtering does happen beforehand. So hopefully that does enable us to take more time and be more thoughtful about the way that we go through things. But I think even just the simple act of the structure of things, being able to make it easy for us to identify those three eyes for me. Again, influence, insight, or innovation. I think those are the three that I usually look for that really stand out for me. And those are usually demonstrated throughout not just those outputs, but those outcomes as well. So I think everything you covered, I think very much so aligns with what I usually look for from resumes as well. And then also kind of front loading those details to make it a lot easier for folks to kind of look through it because it's very small the amount of time that folks have per resume. So I think making it as readable as possible and concise as possible is very important. I think something that's always resonated with me is that, brevity is the sign of an organized mind. And I really do feel that way. So I think being concise and being able to demonstrate that output, I think is always something that stands out for me.
Thank you. And another quick question. What about length of resume, or are there any like major red flags that you've seen or that would automatically turn you off from someone's resume?
I can't say there's anything that comes right top of mind. I think that a lot of the roles that we do work with, oftentimes, it's interesting. We're language agnostic in the way that we recruit, so we don't have as many. We tend to kind of fall into filtering folks in instead of filtering folks out. So I think rarely do I come across a profile where somebody has experience that I feel that there's anything that immediately disqualifies them. But no, I think that. Being able to just make it as easy as possible to infer impact is just really what I often go for. So I think if someone is a bit too verbose, if the formatting on it is something that I can't find, or is one block text where I can't find really the impact and be able to front load those things, I think that's where we get into some issues. But luckily for us, we tend to kind of default a little bit further into being language agnostic, not, more so the ability to learn new skills as opposed to somebody that's coming in with a ready-made skill set. So oftentimes we don't have those clear red flags where we're like, oh, this person doesn't have this specific, let's move on. But it's really about how do we navigate that resume as quickly as we can and garner the impact from it. And a lot of that is around how we structure that information.
Wonderful, thank you. And so I do have one quick question in the chat that is, when you work as a consultant, sometimes you're not able to share so much information about the project. Any advice on how to put it into the resume and in the portfolio without giving away any like proprietary or, secret details?
Yeah, and I think that's a great question. And we come across that a lot as well. I think we do a lot of hiring in Mexico, and we do tend to see that. And coming from a product development focused company too, it's sometimes difficult when some folks might have a little bit more of a consultancy background, since they're not able to really see the full life cycle and the maintenance of a project after maybe they're off of it. But I think just generalizing and zooming out about the problems that were solved, I think is always really kind of what's most important as well. And if there's any indications of the complexity there, it doesn't always need to be scale. It could just be the counterparts, the folks you were working with, or the time crunch you're in. I think if you're able to zoom out, anonymize kind of the projects and that work, and distill it down to, specifically again, what was the impact for the client, and the actions that you took towards that. I think that's really normally what we look for. I think folks that recruit within this space understand that there are limitations there and to how much that can be shared. So I don't think that's something that's seen with kind of a side eye or anything of that nature. I think I would just make sure to kind of zoom out, distill it down to those actions. And that's usually kind of how we come across, and folks do a great job of kind of presenting the impact that they've had without having to get into those specifics.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Yeah, I was going to say something similar, like as much detail as you can share as possible just to show your role. Or even if you have to replicate something for your portfolio that doesn't use the exact same data that you did for the consulting project, that can still show your skills and that you can talk about, that would be another great option. Okay, so I think that's all we have time for today. If you do have other questions later on, of course, you can always feel free to post them in our forum, or send us a direct email as well. You can email us at info@latinxai.org. I'm not sure if, Leonel, if you feel comfortable sharing your contact information with the group in case anyone wants to reach out to you directly. That would be nice. Yes, okay, great, thank you. So Leonel's email as well is in the chat. So thank you all for joining us today. Thank you so much, Leonel, as well for sharing your insights and for being here. We really appreciate it, and we hope that you do get involved with our community as we continue to grow and build together. And we look forward to seeing you at the Neural Information Processing Systems Conference, both in San Diego and Mexico City, within the coming weeks. And that's it. So Have a good rest of your day and weekend. Oh, not weekend. It's Monday. Have a good rest of your week.
Have a good one, y'all.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye.